All right, so before I get into all of the details, I wanted to create a space where I could come and relax. Okay, I'm a father of 3, I've got a wife, I work hard, and I want a place where I can get away and just be by myself. I don't have to hear from anyone about, oh, why don't you put that up on your wall? You don't want to put that up on your wall. Why do you have this little knickknack? You don't need that little knickknack. Shut up. It's my space, okay? I believe every man needs a space to get away from everything, okay? I hate the term man cave. I've always despised that name. This is my office. This is my games room. This is my sort of, my haven, if you will, where I can get away and enjoy life, you know, and just be able to sit down, play guitar for a little while, play video games, do some writing, just meditate, sit quietly, listen to some music. That's what I want in this space, and I don't need to hear from anybody. So if you've got a comment about my space, kids, get out. Get out. You have your own space. You have your own room. This is my room. So, first of all, it was an empty canvas. It was really blank walls, white walls, sort of an eggshell color. And again, this was a new house. We built this house. It took about 1.5 years to build. So I knew this was going to be my space. This was going to be my games room. And I wanted to be able to flow outside. So right here under my patio, I was going to be able to walk out here on the ground level. That's a hammock that's laying there in a pile right now outside. Don't pay attention to that. Where I could just go outside and just walk into the grass. We have to put the grass in and all of that. So that's all coming together. So I knew this space was going to be mine. So I chose a paint color. And the first thing before we did any of this was to put up a paint color. And we went to Sherwin-Williams, and I chose Meditative. That was the color that I chose. And a lot of people have said, I love the color of these walls. So yes, this is like a bluish gray color called Meditative. It's perfect. It bounces off of the white trim really nicely. I'm very happy with it. And this is a place where I can come and meditate and relax, read books, and just shut out the world. I can open up these French doors here, and I can just listen to some Pink Floyd and just kind of hang out. So I love that. Next thing I wanted to do was get some shelves. And I didn't want to put like floor to ceiling shelves. I wanted it broken up a little bit. And I think it also could make it feel too claustrophobic by having too many shelves sticking out and going floor to ceiling. So I opted instead to install some floating shelves. So that's what I did. I got some 3-inch floating shelves and had those installed, painted to match the trim color in here. And I think it looks great. And I'm going to show you these shelves where the games are and what I've got over here by the desk. The next thing I decided to do was mount my television. So here is a 65-inch LG OLED. It's the G4 series. It's one of the new ones. I love this. Beautiful, fantastic refresh rate. Great for gaming. Absolutely gorgeous. I remember hearing John Linneman on Digital Foundry talking about when he upgraded his television. It just so happens that the 3 TVs that we have in our studio, and for my other show that I do, the Redacted show, those are G3 series. So he said that the G4 was even better than the ones we're using in the studio, which we don't need that high refresh rate for those TVs. So I picked up a G4 LG 65-inch. This TV is fantastic. Absolutely love it. And then I also decided that I wanted to install surround sound because I'm crazy. So I have a Sonos Arc underneath the television there. That's the sound bar. And of course, that works on one of the HDMI channels. You can separately input it through optical audio if you want to, but I opted instead to go right for the HDMI out. So that way all the sound from every console that I'm playing, Apple TV, everything will come through the surround sound. Instead of mounting these rear speakers on the wall, I could have done that, which is what I had in Portugal in my old games room. I had these mounted up on the wall. But if you'll recall, I don't know if you watched my channel back then or not, I had a very spherical, sort of circular spire, and I had it in the attic space, and now I'm in the basement. So I had a weird kind of angled roof line that I had to install them on. So I opted there to do that. Here, I didn't want cords hanging down, so I still have to run these cords properly and hide these cords back there. But that way it's right in line with my recliner. which is the other big piece of this. In the old games room, I had 2 recliners sitting side by side. So my son could sit there with me, we could play some games together and all of that. And I opted this time that it was going to feel too claustrophobic. And plus my son is 14, is he really going to hang out in here and game with me? But we have, and if he does, he sits on the floor. You know, I get the chair. He grabs like a pillow and we'll just sit. That's how I grew up. I grew up playing games on the floor. So, but I decided I don't need this other giant black recliner in here, so I sold that one. From Restoration Hardware, I got this really nice, this thing is incredibly heavy, this metal table. It's perfect just like as a little end table for me to have a drink on there. And I like to watch, you know, YouTube videos and things like that sometimes while I'm gaming. So I'll put my iPad Pro just sitting here on this little table with a little drink so I can watch a podcast or something like that in the background while I'm playing some games. So that's the surround sound. Also I have the subwoofer is over here in this corner for the surround sound. So yeah, I've got a really nice surround sound experience. I have to tell you, it's been fantastic playing like Oblivion Remastered and, you know, hearing that incredible environment when you're in a cave and all of that. Just it's really fantastic. So yeah, that's that. Okay, that's almost the complete room setup. I also up here wanted to have a ceiling fan, so I got a ceiling fan in here because I get hot. But more importantly, many of you said, hey, Clayton, if you're gonna have all your games in this room, you gotta make sure that you've got, you know, some blinds because you don't wanna ruin all of your game collection with the sunlight hitting them. You know, I'm sitting here like, do I want my Kid Icarus getting all faded? And do I want my Mega Man 1 getting all faded and everything? No, I don't. So what I did was I went a little crazy. Yes, I did. But this is going to be my house for many, many years. So I'm like, you know what? I want to design this space the way that I really want it. So I put in those Lutron blackout shades. So you'll notice around the sides up here, there's a track that makes it blackout shades. And so these shades will come down and completely black out this environment. And the same thing with here, with the French doors, although this is a little different because it's out, so you'll still get a little light bleed on the side, but that's okay. And all with a touch of a button or just I can even use Siri and just say, hey, Siri, close my office blinds, and it will, and it'll close them. But right now I'm just gonna press the button here so you can see them going down. So 2 buttons here on the wall, boom. When I want a game in peace and I wanna have complete blackness in here, complete darkness, I can do that so that I can get shut out the world and you know, and get complete darkness in here so I can game in peace and not have to worry about any light bleed coming in. So during the day I tend to keep them closed, you know, keep them mostly closed so there's no direct sunlight hitting any of my games. And I should say that even without them, no direct sunlight comes in here anyway because I'm basically in the basement. So I don't get any of that direct sunlight. In Portugal, in my old games room, I absolutely had that experience. Sunlight was pouring through those windows there, so I had to get some shades to black that out because a lot of those game cartridges are going to get pretty faded pretty quickly. So I guess we'll just sit down because this is the sort of the center. Talk about this. Yes, having my recliner, having my ability to just flip this up, and I even got an extra little headrest here and be able to sit back, do a little meditation, play some video games, watch a show if I want to in peace, watch a UFO Netflix show or something like that. It's exactly what I wanted. Now, let's talk about the desk next. I think that's probably best because I want to save the consoles and the games for last. So let's talk about this desk. Now, in Portugal, I had a large wooden desk, which has now been deprecated to out in our main living room area so the kids can use it for other things. But it was a wooden desk, it didn't move, it didn't go up or down or anything like that. I decided I wanted to go with the Secret Lab, the Magnus desk. I wanted a standing desk that can go up and down, so I can raise this desk, I can do writing, I can do work. I have a lot of writing and work to do during the day for my day job, so I can do all of that standing. I also ordered a walking pad, which is a treadmill desk. So it just folds open. I have it out in the garage right now. I haven't set it up just yet, but it will live underneath here and I'll be able to just flip it open and be able to stand on there. And I love that thing. I've had one before when I lived in Portugal Now I've got a new one that I just ordered, and they're pretty inexpensive because you're not running on it. It only goes up to like 4 miles per hour, so it's just walking. And even that's pretty fast. Like walking that fast while you're trying to work is hard. So I usually keep it at about 3.5. And it enables me to type. I can even dictate as I'm writing show scripts for the day and all of that. Plus, if I want to game. So with this Magnus desk, it also has, I got the PC mount built in, so I can put my RTX, actually this is a 3090 in here, plugged in, ready to go with this LG monitor that I just got as well. Now this was the tricky question, and I'm still kind of wrestling with if I really love this or not, having this monitor, this LG monitor. This is a 32-inch. It's a 240 refresh rate. Really, I'll have a link in the description below. It's one of the top of the line, newest LG gaming monitors, 32 inches. Absolutely love this thing. So I'll come back to the monitor in a second because I have some things I want to talk about with this. But right here, I've got the 8-bit DO wireless controller, which is great for playing PC games. I've also got the SteelSeries keyboard and SteelSeries speakers, which sound fantastic. One other thing that I'm grappling with is which keyboards to use. Now, there's of course different programs you can use, Synergy and others, to just use one keyboard that can go between the PC and the Mac, and the mouse situation as well. For me right now, I'm still using 2 different keyboards. Since I'm not really using the PC keyboard very much at all, I kind of push that off to the sides just so you can see it right here for now. The mouse I have, where it's a Bluetooth mouse where I can switch inputs just by flipping it over. I can click between input 1 and input 2. Number 1 is the Mac, number 2 is my PC, and just with the click of a button can go between those 2 devices really simply. Over here I've got a Belkin charger, so I can put my iPhone on there and charge my Apple Watch, as well as like AirPods as well. I'm not sure if I like it in that spot just yet, but it's sitting there right now for me. Now, I have also the problem that I use a Mac. So I've got a Mac and a PC for PC gaming. I don't use Windows for anything. I hate Windows. So the only reason I have the PC attached here is to play PC games, which I've sort of fallen in love with once again over the past few months. And that's why I have this set up the way that I do. As you know, I'm a console gamer. I have been for many, many years, but recently started falling in love with playing Steam games on my PC and going through that whole process of relearning that. You know, as a child, yes, I played consoles, but I was a PC gamer, you know, and playing Stronghold and playing Bard's Tale and classic RPGs on my parents' PC growing up in the 1990s, early 1990s. This has kind of brought me back to that. But I use a Mac for all of my workflow. I hate Windows with a passion. I started using a Mac back in 2008, and I will never go back, whether it's video editing, sound editing, typing, writing, word processing, all of that stuff I do on a Mac. It's just second to none. And anyone who's used a Mac and for that capacity, you know what I'm talking about. So I've got an M4 Mac Mini back here in the back of this desk, in the Magnus desk. And what I love about this standing desk is that it hides all of the cables back here. So everything is run through. I didn't want any cables in this room. I wanted it to be as clean as I possibly could make it. So all of the cables run down this arm, this Visa mount arm, and they go right into this trough in the back, and it hides everything so you don't see it. So I have the M4 Mac Mini just sat back in here in this trough. And the beauty of the Mac Mini is you don't have to worry about it powering on and off. Like, you can let this thing run in standby mode for years and it never has a problem. You're like never having to reboot the thing, which is crazy. So yeah, I've got the Mac Mini in there, and then I've got the PC. And with this monitor right now, I'm gonna get a KVM switch, which will allow me with the press of a button to switch between the Mac Mini and the PC. But right now I just have to reach up under the monitor here and switch between HDMI inputs between the Mac Mini and the PC. So depending on what I'm doing, I can do that with a KVM switch. But, so I love this setup. I love how clean it is. I love the white look to it. I love how sturdy this is. It really is a top-notch standing desk. This thing is fantastic. However, the only thing I don't like about this monitor is that I can still see pixels, okay? And coming from the Mac world where I had a studio display where I could see in 5K and the Retina display, you don't see any pixels. It's just everything is absolutely perfect. Now I can see pixels again. And I know, like, I want it to be perfect, so I've been wrestling with the idea, should I put a studio display up here also on a separate arm that I just use for the Mac and just have the PC on this LG? Maybe. So the studio display I have sitting over here. The only problem with it is that it has a stand. So I opted back when I was using this one for the past few years in Portugal, it has a stand built in, and I didn't order the one that has a VESA mount. I've been trying to watch different videos to see if I can remove this. I know there's a special tool that you need. I don't know that I can remove this and put a VESA mount on it. Maybe I can. I just need to do more research. I've been a little busy. So I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, guys. What do you guys think? This is not a 32 inch, so sat side by side, it's not gonna look clean. It's not gonna look nice sort of side by side because, you can see it's smaller. So if I got a separate arm just for this, just for my Mac Mini, just so I can not see pixels, I don't know. Is it worth it? I don't know. The only other downside, let me put this heavy thing down. The only other downside of this monitor and setup is that right now with the Mac Mini, I have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack connecting to the subwoofer down here. And as you can see, I've got to get my cords figured out still because this is stretching. So I need to get some longer cords. Anyway, the problem that I'm having with this audio setup, and maybe you guys can help me, is there's an audio delay. So when I click on a video, if I'm watching something on YouTube or something on the Mac Mini, I'm getting a 2 to 3 or 4 second delay before I hear the audio. And that's because there's a limitation with the M4 Mac Minis. They love digital audio. So to have analog audio going through, there's like a little bit of a buffer. And then of course I have the full USB-C setup to the PC for gaming. So when I'm playing the PC through the monitor and through these speakers, everything's fine because that's connected directly with USB-C directly to the PC. But that's the only, I'm playing around with the idea of adding a DAC to it and running audio through a DAC, but I don't know that that's gonna work, so I'm still playing with that. So these are the two things that I'm not terribly happy with in this room right now. It's that audio delay that I'm experiencing because I've got the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack coming out of the Mac Mini to the subwoofer for those speakers, and the pixels, that it's not 5K Retina display that I'm used to with the studio display. Now, if I could like game on this studio display, play PC games on here, I would, but this has only a 60 hertz refresh rate. That has a 240. So this is a gaming monitor over here. That's what that is. So it's not really a Mac monitor. So anyway, maybe you guys can help me with that in the comments if you guys have some suggestions. You guys had a lot of great suggestions in my last video about the chaos of this room. So that's the standing desk. I'm gonna lower this. And then what's great about this desk too is it has settings. So you can program it. So one is my seated height. You can program like 2 for your standing height and all of that. So now it's gonna go back down to 1. It'll be perfectly there next to my chair. Perfect height for everything. I just gotta fix the cables on all of that. Okay, next, let's talk about this little setup over here. I wanted to create a place for my retro handhelds, a charging station for them, because if you know anything about retro handhelds, you know that charging for them can be very finicky. So I wanted to have a space where I could have 5-watt charging. Those little tiny white like chargers you used to get with the old iPhones back in the day, the little tiny bricks, 5 watts. They're very, very weak. Well, a lot of these Chinese handhelds require like 5 watts, and more than that, it will not charge properly. In fact, more than that can actually screw it up. So for instance, like the RG 30 XX35 SP, is that right? The RG XX35 SP, I can never Like this requires 5 watts. If you go over that, you're tempting fate. Same thing with like the Retroid Pocket 5. You want to make sure you're not going crazy. Also this from Ambernick as well, the RG34XX. You want to make sure you've got like 5 watts of charging. I've got my Kindle sitting there with USB charging. So I've got 2 different setups here. I've got a 5 watt charger for some of those retro handhelds, and I've got a powerful fast charging USB-C that I'm using for like my Kindle, or if I want to charge my iPad mini or something like that. All right, next let's go to these shelves over here. These 3 little floating shelves. I wanted to have mostly the games on the other side, which you'll see in just a moment. So here I wanted to have it reserved for just things I love. So let's just start on the bottom shelf. Just some personal family things from our some recent trips. Like we went to see the pyramids, we went to Egypt a couple of times while we lived in Europe. It was a much easier trip to get there. So visited the pyramids. I got some Canubic jars, which are really cool. Some hand-carved Canubic jars. Of course, got my little lantern as well, which is pretty cool. Just some pictures that my sister made me, so my sister and I from growing up, that she put here. A little music box that I got from when I was a kid. Yeah, and just some nice little spiritual stuff up here to kind of liven up the space. This little D-Day jar. I bought an empty jar when we went to visit the beaches of Normandy, and went down to the beach, went down to Omaha Beach and Utah Beach. This one was from Utah Beach, and filled it up with some sand from that hallowed ground there. That was really an incredible trip, one that I'll never forget, going to see the beaches of Normandy. The D-Day beaches, pretty remarkable. And then I've got some Batman stuff. Oh, my Mystery Science Theater. I'm a huge Mystery Science Theater fan, so got my, I've got a special boxed edition of my DVDs back here. So I used to collect those DVDs. They're really actually hard to get. So, but I have quite a volume, quite a number of the DVDs from Mystery Science Theater over the years, which is amazing to me because back in the day, I used to like come home from school or come home from swimming or playing water polo during the day, and Mystery Science Theater would be on the Comedy Channel or Comedy Central, whatever it was, at weird hours, like from like noon to 2 p.m. So I would get out a VHS tape and record it. A VHS tape could get 6 hours, right? So I would record like 3 episodes on one tape. Man, it's funny that we used to tape all that stuff back in the day, and then they released them all on DVDs, and it's like, why did I bother? All that time and attention I used to put into labeling, VHS tapes and everything like that. I did the same thing with Batman, the Batman 1960s series. So here is my box set of that, and I have my Sky Commanders back here as well, the complete animated series. How many of you ever watched Sky Commanders? I love that show. I love those toys. Oh, so much fun. I think these Batman toys came from like a Happy Meal or something. I don't know. And then here's my 1989 Batman keychain. So just like a little fun shelf. And then let's go up to this is my Star Trek shelf, okay? I'm a huge Star Trek fan. And yes, have collected the novels over the years, the Star Trek novels. Absolutely love that. Like if you remember the original 79 episodes of the original series, if you're a fan of the show, well, they continued on in book form, and it's considered canon. So you get, it's like having all new episodes in novel form. So I've been a huge fan of Star Trek novels for many, many years. So I've got just the original series up here. I also have some of the Next Generation and Voyager stuff as well. And then my Star Trek original series DVDs, of course, and some of the Gold Key Archive comics. And then up top, I've got some collector's editions. So I've got Zelda Breath of the Wild up top here, the collector's edition of that. It's a little beat up, and actually when I bought it, it was a little beat up, so it wasn't my fault. And then of course, I featured the Alan Wake 2 collector's edition on the show a few months ago, so that's up there, as well as Beatles Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band special edition CD set, the collector's edition, anniversary edition of that with the huge book and story and all of the outtakes and everything. If you're a Beatles fan, it's fantastic. So that's that. Don't worry, we're gonna get to the consoles here in a second. That's the what is that? The piece de resistance, I guess. Here I want to show you this. This is I've been lucky enough to become friends with Jim Lee, the incredible artist, DC artist, of course, Batman, Superman, Flash, you name it, right? Just an incredible artist, comic book artist. So he drew this for me at the 75th anniversary of Batman, and he gave this to me. And then my wife was kind enough to get this framed for me as well. Got a really nice sort of like black, nighttime looking frame, and I just absolutely love this. So one of my favorite pieces in here to have in my games room. Also over here, I've got a few pictures I haven't set up yet. David, my producer, got me this, which actually lights up. So I haven't hung this up yet. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to put this. And then I have a few other things I haven't hung up yet. This I really love. I ordered this a few years ago, and I was waiting to hang it up until we moved, until we actually built out the new games room. So this has been in a box for almost 2 years. And I really love what these guys do. I'll have a link in the description box if you're interested in checking out what these guys do. They have everything from PS1, PS2, you know, old Game Boys. They sort of break them apart. These are actual NES controllers. Each piece is taken apart with a description of it. It's just a really nice piece if you're a retro game fan. So I'm thinking about putting it here. I don't quite know where I'm going to put this yet. I'm just trying to be very intentional about everything that I hang up on my wall. But that's going to go up at some point. Okay, it's a moment I know you've been waiting for, is the consoles. How did I put all of this together? Okay, I gotta get down on my knees here to show you. So, first of all, I got these cabinets from IKEA. It's part of this whole collection. You can see, I'll put the link in the description so you guys can see what these are. I love that the whole back side of this is all open. So I'm not having to like go through one hole to move cables. The whole back side of this is open, goes right out to the wall. It makes it very, very easy to run cables back here. And there's a lot of cables hidden behind this sort of wrought iron looking front of this thing. It's very masculine too, I think. So, starting over here. Now what I did was all of these consoles, every one I have, is now connected through one central area into these HDMI switches that are here. Each of these is 8 ports, okay? Each of these MTVIKI switchers is 8 ports. They all have a remote control. I haven't fully, it's almost done. It's not 100% complete because I have to do a few more labels here with the label maker so everything is labeled properly. But you can see here on the switches, I've labeled every one of them. You can see here like this first one here is like PS5 Pro, Switch, Xbox Series X, PS3, PS2, PS Classic, Mega Drive, Evercade, and then the next switch, each port is labeled. Analog NES, GameCube, all the way up to the third one. This one only has 3 built in on the top, so only three ports are taken on the third switch. Now, I've tested a bunch of these HDMI switches, and I had a 16-port one that I bought, and that just didn't work at all. Everything was flickering. It just was not activating when I would switch between one port or the other. It just wouldn't work. So I opted instead for these. I found that these worked really, really well. You can scan each input so it knows if something is powered on. And when you power on one of your consoles, it'll automatically switch to that port, to that HDMI input, and voila, right on your screen, you're golden. So I found these to be very reliable. And yeah, and if they make a 16-port one that actually works, maybe I'll upgrade so I don't have to swap anything out. I've been talking a bit, but now we're getting to the good stuff. I should point out that I've got, this TV has 4 HDMI ports, right? One of them is taken up by the surround sound system, the Sonos Arc, so that we're coming out of the sound bar. The other one is taken up by the Apple TV. The other 2 are then taken up by these switches. So the only one that isn't plugged in at the moment is the third HDMI switch, which means I'll need to disconnect one of them in order to connect the other switch. It's the only downside here. And I haven't really thought of another workaround. I suppose I could use like an HDMI switcher or a an HDMI splitter. That can get a little funky. I will play around with that at some point, but right now, the third HDMI switch here is unplugged until I want to use one of those consoles listed there. So I really tried to put the consoles that I'm not going to use very much on that third switch. Okay, enough of that. Let me just show you the consoles here. Starting to the left, I have my Wii U. I'm just like sort of really partial to this system. So the Wii U is plugged in, attached. I have the motion bar up here for playing Wii games that require motion controls, and I've got the Wii U gamepad up here on its charger, which is also plugged in and ready to go. So the Wii U is attached and ready to go. I've got the NES Classic in here. The NES Classic. I've got the SNES Classic right next to that. Over here, it's still a little messy. I've got the Sega Genesis, the Mega Drive Classic. So 3 classic consoles filled with games, which is pretty cool to have all of those attached and ready to go at any time. Jump from playing, Mario 3D, Super Mario Brothers 3, to jumping over to playing Sonic or Altered Beast. It's attached and ready to go at a moment's notice right through the HDMI switch. Got the Xbox Series X down here. That's attached and ready to go and fired up. My Analog Duo, which really has become one of my favorite consoles from Analog, to be able to play PC Engine games, PC TurboGrafx games, and PC Engine CD games as well, right on the Analog Duo. Let me close these up. Moving right along. Underneath here, I've also got the GameCube is attached and ready to go. So GameCube is attached and fired up and ready to go. Then coming all the way down here, we've got the Evercade Versus, to be able to play Evercade cartridges. And I've got the PlayStation 1 Classic, which you know how a lot of people feel about the PlayStation 1 Classic. A lot of people not happy about that device. And I will say, I tried to mod this thing. I tried for a long time to try to mod this thing, and I couldn't get it modded. Booting into, I forget even what the front end looks like, and then loading a whole bunch of ROMs on here. I'm gonna try it again at some point, but I gave up. It had something to do with my USB flash drive, which seems like a common occurrence with me. So anyway, it still works. It plays the PS1 games that came loaded on it. So that's that. Right next to that is the PS3. That is attached and ready to go, the PS3, and really been playing a lot more PS3 games lately, so enjoying that. I've got my Nintendo Entertainment System, my original NES right here, plugged in and ready to go as well. Under that is the Analog Sega Genesis. I never know what these names are. They're such a weird names from Analog, but this is the one that plays Sega Genesis games. Upscaled, looks beautiful. So I've got that plugged in and ready to go to play Sega Genesis games. Yes, and I have the Sega Genesis Classic down there. So I've got 2 ways to play my old cartridges plus that. And then here I have the Analog NES, which I think it's called the NT. I never remember these, but this plays original NES games and Famicom games as well on the Analog NES. So, this is the thing where I more than likely just keep this one fired up and plugged in rather than the NES, because let's be honest, I'd rather play it with HDMI and not have to deal with FrameMeister, sort of upscaling of the NES here. And then coming all the way down here, that's it. I've got some backup hard drives and Drobo, RAID array, and network storage devices and stuff like that. So that's that down here. So now up top is where we get into some of the other consoles. The sort of, I want to say, like main consoles that I use on a regular basis. I'm walking on my knees. Yes, I've got the PS5 Pro. This is probably what I play most of the time. So that's kind of up in front and up in center here with my PS5 chargers that are set here as well. The Nintendo Switch with a couple of different controllers. My Pro controller. I've got the Hori side pads on here, controllers on that side. as well. So I don't know if you heard that beep, by the way, when I put that on there, that beep activated on the HDMI switch here. So it recognized that, oh, that's turned on, and it automatically switches to that input. It's pretty cool. Over here, I've got the analog pocket, and this is the dock. So the analog pocket dock is connected, and it's also charging, but it's also connected via HDMI, so I can play analog pocket games like Game Boy Advance games or whatever on the big screen, which is pretty cool. Right here, I've got my special edition Zelda 3DS. That's just on a charger. Of course, it's not connected to the screen, so that's just here looking nice, but it's not actually connected there. I talked about this is the Wind Waker Special Edition Wii U gamepad. Right here, as one of the inputs, is my Steam dock for the Steam Deck. That's also right here plugged in and ready to go. That's in the third HDMI switch because, again, I don't really play my Steam games or my Steam Deck games on the big screen. I want to play it on the Steam Deck. And if I want to play Steam games, I'm going to play it right there on the PC. Then I've got my special edition PlayStation 2 from Project Retro Games. Absolutely love this special edition of my PlayStation 2, which is also plugged in and ready to go and be able to play. It's a modded PS2, which I'm really excited to be able to play. So yeah, those are all the consoles connected. And then down here, I've got my 8-bit dual arcade stick, which I haven't taken out of the box since we've moved, but that's there. So those are all the consoles. That's everything attached. Of course, when the Switch 2 comes out in the next few days, by the time you're seeing this, it's already out. I'll swap this out so we won't have the Switch 1 attached here anymore. I'll probably, put the Switch 2 as one of the main console docks here, and because I don't know that I'm going to even need the Switch 1 dock in here anymore anyway. Okay, that's all the consoles. Now let's talk about the games and what I have set up here. So I'm just going to kind of turn the camera around and talk through these different setups and explain what my thinking was in putting all of this together. Let's start at the top up here with my collector's editions. I decided to line them up this way, and as you can see, I have a lot of them. There's a lot of collector's editions back here that are actually doubled up, sort of behind what you're seeing. Unfortunately, I ran out of space, but I decided to put the ones up front that I really love, I think, the most. So you got the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Special Edition, Collector's Edition. This is the European version because that's where I lived when I bought it. It was in Europe. Also, I picked this up at the store where I bought Fire Emblem Engage. So it was there in Portugal where I picked this up. So there you go, and I love the artwork for Fire Emblem Engage, that collector's edition. And there's one of my favorite games of all time, Metroid Dread. I have that special edition up there staring at me. I just love that cover. I've never played Cosmic Fantasy. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I picked up the Cosmic Fantasy collection from Limited Run Games, and it's kind of one of those big Shockbox style, Neo Geo style, and I just love that artwork up there. Also, I played and beat this during the holidays. Ultra Core, the collector's edition I picked up on the PS5. That was a Sega Genesis game that never was released. It was sort of lost to time, and finally got a release. And it was great to, after all of those years, to have a Sega Genesis game that never saw the light of day finally get released. So I love that cover. That's just such a great cover, and I had to put that up there. It comes with a poster and some CDs and stuff like that. Oh my God, Assault Suits Valken. I love this game. It was originally on the Super Nintendo. They re-released it using its original classic Japanese name, Assault Suit Valken. And so I had to pick up this special edition as well because they didn't have a physical. So I bought it digitally, and I couldn't wait till the physical released, and I just love that. Look at that Gundam. Look at that mech suit right there. It's amazing. Unicorn Overlord, one of my favorite games of the last year. last few years. I 100%ed this game. Of course, I've done a whole deep dive video on it. If you guys want to learn more about Unicorn Overlord, I highly recommend it. One of my favorite strategy games ever. Again, check out that video where I went in depth. Baldur's Gate, was waiting for the collector's edition, was waiting for the physical copy. It took forever to get this thing, but finally picked up a copy of this. I still have not played Baldur's Gate, can you believe it? But I have it sitting there staring at me, just waiting. The Castlevania Advanced Collection up at the top here, it has a button on the side that actually plays some music, which is pretty cool. So I've got that. It's really cool set from the Game Boy Advance collection of games for Castlevania, really great. And then Alien Isolation as well, the collection up here. So those are my collector's editions. Of course, got a few more, and again, a bunch behind here that I'm not showing right now. Next up, I'm not going to go through all of these games, but next up is my PlayStation shelf. So I've got all the PlayStation stuff here lined up, starting down here with my PlayStation 5. And it's amazing how, God, this system is only a few years old, and look how many games on the PlayStation 5 I have. Doubled up on this shelf. Kind of broke it up a little bit by putting Fires of Rubicon, Armored Core 6. I got the launch edition in here. I completed this game. That was one of the most difficult, some of the most difficult boss fights I've ever had to face. Of course, a FromSoft game. Loved Armored Core 6. If you haven't played it, go and buy it. It's a fantastic, fantastic game. Oh my gosh. And the online play of that game, I was playing with my friend John. Oh, we had a blast playing that as well. Okay, PS4. Got a bunch of PS4 games here. Not as big, honestly, as my PS5 collection, because PS4 for me was an era when I wasn't gaming very much because my son was born, and it was just like a very busy time. So this was a part of that era where I wasn't playing a lot of games. But the PS4 games that you see here, honestly, a lot of them I bought recently or in the past few years, and it's not doubled up. You can see it's just one pile here, so it's not doubled up behind here. So that's probably my least amount of games, actually, to be honest with you, in the PlayStation shelf. Well, I guess when you get down to like the PS2 stuff. But here's my PS3 collection. And this was I never owned a PS3. So all of these PS3 games have been purchased in the last like 2 or so years. And I've been really enjoying going in and playing on the PS3. These are not doubled up either. So these are just one single line. I just wanted to keep them all consistent here so they're not some sticking back and some sticking out. So yeah, just one shelf here of PS3 games plus my 30th anniversary edition PS wireless controller, my PlayStation wireless controller. I've got some PS2 stuff. Some of it I went back and purchased again from my childhood, but some of it bought for the first time. I never played some of these games. I loved this game. This is a game I recently picked up in Pasadena at the Southern California Retro Gaming Expo. So had to pick up this game. I loved the Two Towers. And you can see my PC Engine CD games in there. Just got Ninja Spirit, Ease Books 1 and 2. For the, I played it last year on the Analog Duo. I've got a few little PSP games here. That's about it. My sad PSP collection. 2 games there. And then my Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D Remake Special Edition just sat here next to Link. All right, let's finish off with the Nintendo shelf. Let's start here with my massive Switch collection. So yes, my friends, this is the largest collection that I have of all video games. You can see these are doubled up. Back here, I just took some off here because I was filming a video with some different games that I wanted to talk about. But so normally this would be full up here, but those are over on my desk at the moment. But anyway, starting down here, got some amiibos, and I just put a few sort of facing out, like Tears of the Kingdom, because probably my favorite game of all time, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and I have that sitting right beneath the collector's edition up there. But yeah, oh, so many games. I absolutely love the Nintendo Switch. I honestly think it's probably the greatest console ever made from a collecting perspective. And now with the Switch 2, out, and available, of course, it is now becoming really the greatest system to collect for, because many, many, many of these games are playing so much better on the Switch 2. Now, this is Clayton editing this in a little bit later because it took me a long time to film this whole video. And let me just say, when I started filming this whole video, the Switch 2 was not out and available. It now is. I own it. And I'm telling you that so many of these games from the Switch 1 era play so much better on the Switch 2. You know, especially if you had an uncapped frame rate and it was hitting like 30, 35 frames a second. So as an example, over here on my desk, this game, like the Pathless, really only hitting like 30 frames a second, 35 frames a second, maybe. It's uncapped on the Switch 1. But on the Switch 2, 60 frames a second, it just plays beautifully. It's really fluid, especially because it relies so much on that beautiful movement to play. Here's another game, Trek to Yomi, 30 frames a second on the Switch 1, but it was pretty choppy. It really plays beautifully on the Switch 2, just as a few little examples here. I'm doing a whole video on it right now. So, all right, let's go back to the shelf. All right, so picking up where we left off. Behind here, I've got my Metroid tin, because I love my Metroid so much. Got some more amiibos, some NES coasters, which I've actually never opened. My Hylian shield, and some more Switch 2 stuff back here, or Switch 1 stuff back here. A few more Switch 1 games back here, and some NES controllers. And then get down to some of my original boxes of my NES games. I've got my Mega Man here, Mega Man 1, Adventure of Link, Kid Icarus, one of my favorite games of all time. And yes, Dragon Warrior, again, one of my favorite games of all time, and just my other NES games back here, and some of the new games that are on the NES. Yes, recent releases for the NES. I'm going to do a whole video about that eventually. Then my Game Boy and Game Boy Advance section down here. I recently only got a Game Boy Advance, or started playing really on the Analog Pocket. So I've just started to build like a little collection of Game Boy Advance games over the past few years from some different conventions and things like that. So yeah, very small collection, but this was my original Game Boy Super Mario Land for the Game Boy. So that is my Nintendo shelf. Okay, we're coming down to the end of the wire. The last two shelves down here. And what do we have here? So let's take a look. Let's start here. I've got a hue light that I can change the colors of. You know, it's all controlled by an app, which is nice. I've got my original Optimus Prime from my childhood. He's missing his hands. I've got my Dragon Quest mouse pad that I absolutely love. My Dick Tracy figure that I have since childhood, and my amiibos of Metroid Dread and the EMMI, which I love, and some other Transformers. Now my daughter gave me this, my 8-year-old, for Christmas. She got me this light up controller thing. Looks pretty cool. It just says game on. You can change the color with the remote, which is pretty neat. So really nice of her. I appreciate that. My son for Christmas got me this Ecto 1 die-cast, which is super cool. And he also got me the DeLorean from Back to the Future, one of my favorite movies of all time. And just a picture that my son drew of me. That's him, and that's supposed to be me. Walking with a butterfly. I don't know, when he was like really young. So have that framed right there. Yeah, and then when I was in New Zealand, shooting photos with a bunch of my friends who are photography buffs, a friend who was with our group shot this photo of all of us taking photos of this sunset while he was up on the hill, and he sent me this really nice print. So that's sitting there for now. All right, let's move the shelves down here. Okay, next up, Sega Genesis. My original Sega Genesis cartridges. Some of these are original of mine, some I bought not too long ago, but most of these are from my childhood, and some of my loose cartridges where I don't have the cases anymore. And then all of like my bitmap book collection. Some of these are gifts from my friend Johnny over at the Happy Console Gamer. He got me this PC Engine box art book, and as well as this Neo Geo visual history. I just love these books. I love that they're sitting right next to me here on my recliner, and I can just reach over and sit and page through some of these classic books. I absolutely love that. Down here is just a little bit, I've got my Chromatic and some of my Evercade cartridges. So I'm not terribly happy about where these are sitting right now, but I don't have really other space for them right now. So the Evercade cartridge is kind of living down here as well as the Chromatic, which I'm really excited to be able to dive in and start playing some games on the Chromatic very, very soon. But we've been moving and building, and it's been a little crazy here. So yeah, by the way, here is the Chromatic. I can't wait to dive into this once I get a moment to myself. You know, moving is kind of crazy because for me, I was really taking care of the family and making sure that their rooms and everything was done. And then this has been the last room that I tackled. My 3DS collection sitting here. Yes, some of it's doubled up back there as well. Here also, my Nintendo Wii games, just a few of them here with my GameCube games. And my Wii U, I just like the colors down here. So the blue next to the red. So I put my Wii U games down here. My Axiom Verge Special Edition up here, the Multiverse Edition. And then I've got my NES loose cartridges over here. And just some of the Nintendo Online controllers to sort of break it up a little bit. And here's something down here I'm not terribly happy with. Some odd-shaped Nintendo Switch editions. Some of them are collector's editions, some of those just special boxes, platinum editions, complete editions, stuff like that. But these are all Nintendo Switch games. Some of them look like NES games or Super NES games, and some of these are actually Super NES editions of games as well. And then over here, just a bunch of my handheld, just a bunch of my cases, like my Nintendo Switch case for travel and so forth. And a couple of my special edition 3DSs are back in here as well. Monster Hunter Rise controller and my Game Sir Bluetooth controller down here. So that, my friends, is a look at my games room. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm open to suggestions, how you'd move things around, change things up, especially with the monitor situation and the audio situation with the Mac Mini. But for the most part, I absolutely love this space. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. I'll have links to just about everything that I can think of as far as the switches and the HDMI switches and the different mice that I use and all of that, the desk setup and everything in the description below. So thank you guys so much for subscribing to the channel. Thanks for coming on this journey. I've done quite a bit of talking now. It's time for me to kick back and play some games or take a nap. We'll see you next time, everyone.